Okay, I think we can start. I would like to welcome you all to the webinar about BI tools, where we will discuss which analytics tool you should or should not use in 2024. This session is a part of a series Building Data-Driven Company. If you missed any of the previous webinar, don't worry. All participants will get a link after this session. I will not keep you longer. I encourage you to ask questions during the event in the chat. And I'm happy to give a stage to our speaker, Przemek, Anna, and Piotr.
Okay, thank you, Claudia, for the introduction. So let me start. We came into the question at the beginning of this year, having a discussion together, which tool is the best, or which tool should the company should be using. And you might come with a question with this question and get this answer that, but there's no actually right or wrong answer, because there are many tools and all they have advantages and disadvantages. And if you are thinking about implementing a tool in your company, you can choose from the industry offering which tool would be best for you. So during this webinar, we are going to show you the main ideas, where we are going to show you how to look at the tool. So what should be selection criteria. Then we want to show you how the tools work in real life. So each of us will show you some showcases how the tool work. And then we will talk about the selection process so that you can you can see what you should take into consideration when selecting the tool. And then we'll talk how to start. So today we will have 3 speakers. So we have Anna, Piotr, and Przemysław. Let me introduce myself, and then I will hand over the voice. So my name is Przemysław. I'm the data expert specializing in Power BI. I've been working in many industries and implementing multiple solutions for small companies and big companies. And also recently, I'm also developing my skills in a more data engineering area, so that I can be more like a full stack data expert. So yeah, thank you very much. And Anna, handing over to you.
Yes, hello guys. So my name is Anna Wnuczko. Currently, I'm working as the data engineer. But my main focus in the past couple of years was business intelligence engineering, and I was working mainly with Looker. I will pass the voice over to Piotr.
Thanks, Anna. So hello everyone, my name is Piotr. Today I'm in Team Looker Studio and Team Tableau, but I like to switch sides. I basically used all of these tools for at least some degree. For those of you who are confused, Looker Studio is a different product than Looker. A while back, you might recognize it under the name Data Studio, but it was rebranded, probably to make these tools more difficult to distinguish. Of course, that's a joke, but yeah. So I've been in the analytics for about 10 years now, and mostly working at the intersection of the business teams and the tech teams. So I hope to add some input from me today. Okay, Przemek, can you move on to the next slide? Okay, so let's start with the selection criteria. And as you may know, because if you're interested in the topic, you have probably seen that in the internet, you can find literally thousands of different comparisons of different BI tools going very much into the details. But what we have noticed is that basically, if you think about what BI tools can do now versus what they could a couple of years ago, the gap between different tools is getting narrower and narrower. If you show the next slide, Przemek, you can see here, for example, different two like screenshots from the famous Gartner Magic Quadrant study, where on the left you can see that many tools were scattered across the whole board, so there were huge differences between them. Maybe you remember that a while back, if someone asked for a BI tool that can generate nice charts and it's easy to use, everyone recommended Tableau. If you needed to do some data processing, everyone recommended PowerBI, and so on. If you look at the current picture in 2023 or maybe 2024, you can see that the differences between the tools are not that vast. So that's why we decided to focus on the 3 criteria that we see the most differentiating in 2024. And we will look at every one of them through the lenses of different tools. And we of course explain what we mean by each of them. So if you could, Przemek, move on. I will start with the entry barrier because I think the common approach is that we are over-focusing a little bit on the cost of the licenses of different tools, but there are things that can be much more costly and much more harder to find, for example, at the websites of different products. So we decided that one of the criteria that we want to discuss with you are things like how hard it is to deploy a tool, how hard it is then to maintain it, what people you need, how hard these people are to find, and so on. So in the next slide, we will discuss how do we see this criteria for each of the tools. And Anya will start by discussing the Looker.
Yes, so for the entry barrier, the setting up the Looker instance is relatively easy. Looker is under GCP, so also UI might be very familiar for most of the GCP users, like users of other products. So it's quite easy to set up the connection to the warehouse. It's easy to start your first project. Once you are developing the code, you have some tips or pre-generated code that you can reuse. However, the entry barrier, in my opinion, is quite. It might be quite hard to begin anyway because Looker has many native objects. So it has separate language tool for coding. It's called LookML. Also, the names of the objects inside the projects are very native to Looker. So I have the observation that in the beginning, many people are a bit confused and they are mixing the terms. And in the beginning, the development might be quite complex. Also, there are some forums for the Looker users. However, I also have the observations that quite often there are no answers to the questions that people are posting, and quite often the topics are closed even before they are answered. So I think that it takes a while to get familiar with this tool, to know the custom naming, custom code, plus the administration of whole instance. It's also quite specific, so it might take a while in the beginning. And I will pass it to Piotr.
Thank you, Anya. And I can confirm when I joined the project, where the Looker was used, people who had experience in analytics, but not necessarily with Looker, we all needed a little bit of time to get used to this tool. So initially it gets a little bit overwhelming. Okay, the next one is Looker Studio, so former Data Studio. And this tool is actually very easy to use if you are on GCP. If you are on Google Cloud, basically there is nothing you need to do to install it. There is zero maintenance. Basically you just open this tool and it just works. So from the entry barrier perspective, I would give it 5 stars. The only reason why I give it 4 stars is that it's only available in Google Cloud. So if you are on a different cloud, it will be it is possible, but it might be a little bit more challenging to use this tool. The next one that I also have here is Tableau. And when it comes to Tableau, I would say it's pretty standard. So we've done some projects in Tableau recently. I talked with people who are installing this tool, doing the maintenance, and our observation is that it's pretty standard. Like there's not much surprises when it comes to the like installation, maintenance, and so on. What is a little bit challenging, but that's for especially for the analyst or maybe the business users. From business users, we quite often hear that the tool is complex. So if they want to build their own charts, if they are very basic charts, it's fine. But if they want to build something more complex, it requires lots of tweaking, and it sometimes feels like you are doing a workaround to do something that should be supported out of the box. But other than that, I would say that it's pretty average in terms of the barrier, how difficult it is to start using this tool.
Yeah, so before I go into Power BI, I can comment that, yeah, indeed, I work a bit with Tableau, and having the knowledge of Power BI didn't give me an advantage of using the Tableau because it has really tool-specific solutions. So I understand that some users might be overwhelmed with the technicalities of the Tableau. So yeah, coming to Power BI, yeah, I gave it 5 stars due to the fact that it's really easy to start working with Power BI. This is the Microsoft product, and it's very similar to the Office other products like Excel, PowerPoint. So if you open it, it's really easy to, start, click, and do anything. It has a lot of documentation trainings from Microsoft and also from the whole community. We have a lot of experts on YouTube, on blogs that give you tips and tricks, which is really cool. From the user perspective, the tool can be used with no code. So if you don't want, you can just click out everything. So you don't have to learn the M language for the transformation. You can just do the clicks, and Power BI will do everything for you. When it comes to the calculations as well, you don't have to know DAX, which is the internal language. You can use the built-in functions or quick measures. So for the beginning, you don't have to know anything special. So the necessary knowledge to start is only the knowledge how to play with the data. So Excel or SQL experience would be enough. Okay, thank you very much.
And remember that this is our subjective opinion. So if you have a different opinion, we will be happy to discuss in the Q&A section. So now moving on to the costs. So what we found important is that not all costs are very easily visible when you look at the pricing on the websites of different tools. So that's why we decided to discuss it and split the whole discussion into 2 parts. The first one is the license, cost of license, and the other one is the other cost that you might expect from different tools. And an example of why this is important might be conversation that we had with one of our clients a while ago, who considered 2 BI tools, but one was hosted on a different cloud that they used for hosting the data. So what we discussed with them and helped them uncover was that if they transfer the amounts of data that they had in one cloud to the other cloud just for the BI purposes, basically the pricing benefit that one of the tools had disappeared and it became more expensive. Actually, it actually eliminated this tool from the choice. So tip for the future is that that's one of the costs that should be taken into account. And now we will discuss this very specifically for every tool that we have for today.
Mm-hmm.
So Anya, can you say a few words about this?
Yes. So we prepared the slide with like some basic pricing, and we have the assumptions that like a sample company might need 2 admins / developers, 5 analysts. So the employees who will create the reports and 100 viewers. And you see that Looker is the most expensive tool because we calculated these numbers and compared them with the like price per one seat. And also this price of Looker might be even higher because the standard custom standard Looker instance costs about $5,000. Plus we also have the price per the API calls, and for the standard like 1,000 query calls. So you can imagine the situation that someone on the standard license might exceed this number and the costs will be higher. Also, once you will search for pricing for Looker, quite often on forums you will see that you never know, or it's so custom, and there are also some suggestions that you should first contact the sales to know the exact price. And also from this comparison, we see that it's Looker Studio is free. There's the Pro version that is more expensive, but I think that for the beginners or for the companies that would like to have some ad hoc reports, that they can start with Looker Studio. And yeah, I think that we can move forward. Yeah. Or if you would like to add anything, Przemek or Piotr.
I can just clarify the difference between Looker Studio for free and the Pro version. So the Looker Studio free version, it has lots of features that you expect from the BI tool. One of the things that is a little bit messy is that managing basically permissions to different resources that you have, so to data sets and to dashboards, because it works like this, that the creator is the owner of given resource. So if, for example, by accident given account is removed, those resources also disappear. And if you want to have the more robust management of the resources, privileges, and so on, the Pro version might be better for you. But also from the features perspective, there is lots of stuff that you can achieve with the Looker Studio that is available for free.
Piotr, there's a question about the Looker Studio Pro pricing. How did we get to 1,000? If one license is $10 and we want 5 analysts, I think, yeah, you can explain maybe the calculations for Pro.
Maybe we can leave questions for the end of this. I tried to answer some of them in chat, but we have lots of stuff prepared for today, so I think it's gonna help us keep the time.
Problem. So one question, one comment for Power BI. We are assuming just for everyone we are buying the Pro license. That's why this is the price, the final price. Yeah, but going to the indirect cost, we want to also mention some other costs which are not only related to money. And yeah, Anya, giving voice to you.
Yes. So when it comes to indirect costs, we need to consider also the cost of the staff. So that will be the admins, developers, analysts, and because of the pricing of Looker, the standard seat for developer and admins are quite expensive. And also we need to think that, and we need to remember that Looker has very native language. So we need to have the BI developer who will create and model the code. So that's the cost of the staff. It will be also the cost of the time for the trainings, because also I have some observations that when people are switching from other tools to Looker, it might be very hard in the beginning. So it takes time for the learning. And also, I mentioned before about this risk of exceeding the API calls, and that might be charged additionally. And I think that many business users might not be aware that that they can generate additional costs. So once again, Looker might be quite expensive, and there are actually the tutorials on GCP and with labs, which are very useful. But still, despite they are free, you need to dedicate many hours to learn.
When it comes to Looker Studio, because it offers so many features for free and is free of maintenance, everything is done for you. I gave it 5 stars because it's, in terms of the hidden costs, or not only hidden, but basically costs, it's the best out of tools that we compare today. And when it comes to Tableau, also 3 stars, which is pretty, I would say, standard, average, because it, of course, requires installation, depending on whether you will decide to do it host it on your own or use Tableau Cloud. But there are not many things that may surprise you. What is worth having in mind is that it's good to check whether all the features that you will need to use are included in the basic license, because quite often it happens that some extra tools, like for example, data processing tools, are included in the extra add-ons, which are also paid. So the only thing I would say that it's worth checking before you decide to use Tableau is whether all the functions that you need are included in the basic license, and if not, how much it will cost you to buy the extra add-ons.
Okay, thank you, Piotr. So going to Power BI, we also gave it 5 stars just due to the fact that it's really easy to upskill for people that are not really educated in the BI. So I'm training people in Power BI, and I can see from my own perspective that even people that only know Excel, they can really easily upskill in a short time to just use Power BI easily. So from my perspective, like if you are a user, it's enough to have 3-4 hours of training just how to get around the tool. If you want to become a developer, you might need 1 week of training just to start building some basic dashboards. So it's really there's not really a lot of stuff that you need to know before, and it's really easy to upskill your stuff if you want to use the same workforce that you have right now. Okay.
Finally, self-service. So that's a criteria that everyone wants, or many companies want, but it's worth clarifying 2 aspects of it. The first one is what we actually mean by self-service. So the first tool that started talking about self-service was Tableau. And it was because it allowed people, non-engineers, non-programmers, to build a user interface for analytics on their own. So back in the days, that was the first tool that seemed so easy and intuitive for analysts and the business. Nowadays, when you talk about self-service, often you mean that business users, so people who maybe don't know SQL, or do not have advanced technical knowledge, are able to use the tool and freely explore the data on their own. Not only the reports that are exposed to them, but if they find something that's alarming to them or maybe interesting, they are able to dive in very deeply to the even raw data and be able to find some answers on their own. Of course, not all the answers, but many answers. And we don't know what future brings, but already today, knowing about all the hype related to the Gen AI and LLMs, there's also lots of new discussions about, for example, some conversational user interfaces, so that not only people who are at least slightly trained in a tool can use it, but everyone can talk to the tool like to any other person and get the answers. But that's more about the future. We will see if that comes to the realization. So that's the first thing. So what do we mean by self-service? And the other thing that is also worth having in mind is that not everyone needs to have such sophisticated self-service capabilities. I can give you an example of 2 companies that I worked for. In one company, that was the best self-service that I've ever seen, because in that company, they used Looker, by the way. It didn't work that way, that analysts were reaching out to, business were reaching out to analysts to pull some data. But what was happening there, if there was some issue, business was doing their own investigation. And already when they already have some first thoughts, some first hypotheses, they were reaching out to analysts with some first ideas about how to solve the problem, because they were able to discover patterns on their own. But on the other hand, I also worked in the company that had more kind of a hybrid setup. So they had a central team of analysts, but also analysts were parts of many business teams. So if there was an important business project, you had like product owners, some business people, and also an analyst. And at that company, basically there was no service at that time, because if business had some questions, they had analysts available for them who could do the work. So in that scenario, everyone could focus on what they do best, and that worked pretty well. So before jumping at conclusion that self-service is something that is necessarily needed for a given company, it's also worth to think about how it will be used and if it will bring actually some extra value. So now we will compare the tools very briefly.
Yes. So for Looker and self-service, I have the feeling that this tool was meant to be the self-service instance. And one thing that I want to mention is that Looker has a model that is coded. So a lot of things depends on this model. So when the developer is adding additional descriptions to the fields, when it's providing some examples, then the self-service is very smooth. And I have the experience that business users were doing a lot of the reports on their own with very little help. Maybe sometimes it was about the context of the data, but the UI is very user-friendly, and a lot of things like visualizations are suggested as default. So user can build some a part of the report, and Looker will suggest the best type of the visualization. So also I have the experience with the method of working with business that as a developer, I had some periodical meetings with business, and the upskilling and training was done inside the company. So also it was the chance to hear the feedback about the metrics that were exposed, and it was about listening if people are getting lost, and what would help them to be more confident with building their own reports. Plus, Looker allows to have the live chat with the support, and it has a lot of materials, and these training materials have very nice form, because as I said before, Looker is under GCP, so a lot of people are familiar with both type of the documentation and UI of the tool itself. Yeah, and I will pass it to Piotr.
So I will say that about Looker Studio, that it's very good if you think about self-service for analysts, because as you will see in a moment in demo, it's very intuitive and very easy to use if you know SQL and have some basics of the BI knowledge. Then you will be able to very easily do your own reports. On the other hand, if you think about business, so how easy it is to make it a self-service for the business, it feels like it's not the tool that by design is prepared to do it. Although you can do some workarounds. For example, you can try to share some data sets between the teams so that people can reuse data sets to create their own reports. They do not need to know, for example, how the tables are joined under the hood. They don't need to know the SQL, although it may get a little bit messy. So that's why I gave it 3 stars. The next tool, I would say that it's the same. Basically, by default, even in the pricing, if you look at the pricing, it's quite obvious that it's not a tool that is designed with self-service for the business in mind. because if you want to just view the charts, the reports, then there is like one price for it. But if you want to actually create anything on your own, the price is almost 3 times as high. So that affects the pricing a lot. But also, again, it is possible to do it in Tableau. You can publish some data sources in the server and then allow the business people to connect to these data sources. We have done it in one of the projects, but again, because it's not a native, I would say, design, it may get a little bit tricky. So that's why I also gave 3 stars to Tableau.
Okay, thank you, Piotr. So yeah, about the Power BI, we gave it 5 stars, just because it really enables the business to use already created data models. So if you have a developer and they are working on the data model, they can prepare a ready data set, for example, like finance data set, marketing data set, sales data set, and they can publish it in Power BI service, and then business user can use this ready data model for reporting. So for self-service, it's really easy to spread the good quality data around the business. When it comes to the, let's say, user itself, if he or she wants to extend the data model, they can easily integrate with any of the 150 sources with Power BI, and Power BI has built-in connectors. So apart from login and password, you don't need to know anything more. When it comes to the data modeling, so the user do not have to know the data modeling itself. They can also work with like one big table and just do the calculation based on it, the same as with Excel. And the last thing about the AI, so right now, Microsoft is adding the Copilot to Microsoft. So if you have a Copilot license, you can use the ChatGPT Copilot to help you build DAX queries. So it's really cool, and it can really speed up the process. And also about the AI, if you have a data model prepared for you as a business user, then developer can enable something like a Q&A feature where business can talk with the data. So you're just writing a question in the human language and you get the result in a data format, like a chart, like a number or visualization. So it's really easy for business user to talk and use the data. Okay. Yeah, so I think that would be all for the criterias. Piotr, do you want to talk about the point number 2?
So maybe I will talk about this one. Yes. So if you can move to next slide. Yes. So we also wanted to show you some demo to allow you to see the all 4 tools in action, and we prepare the task that might be common for many companies. So we want to expose the data about monthly revenue for financial departments. And now I will start with Looker. So also we have the same data set. So I will show you the whole path from having the raw data to expose data as the chart. So I will
okay, so I'm stop sharing.
I will share my screen. Okay. Okay, I hope that you see SQL run. Yes, so
Yep.
I think okay. Yes. So also I want to mention that to visualize the data needs to be first in the data warehouse. So there's no option to expose the data from CSV directly. So I have the connection, and the connection is from BigQuery. And here we have two tables from the dataset commerce. And I think that it will be common for all approaches that first we need to know the business logic. So here I prepared the query, and I know what data I'm looking for, that I need to filter out some records to have the accurate numbers. So as BI developer, I will start from this point. So that's the basic data exploration, and Looker allows to build or to have the combine the derived table. So that's the code of the snippet which I can reuse, usually with some changes, but the basic thing is done. So that's this part that I will use in the code. So I will show you how this code looks like in the project. And as I mentioned before, Looker has many custom naming conventions. So for example, here we have the views, we have the models, and the metrics that I'm exposing are under the dimension group, dimension measures. So it depends what's the type of the data. Is it aggregated? Do you want to expose the timelines? And here I need to first expose the query as derived table. And here I'm using the syntax of the data warehouse. So here it's BigQuery. For other warehouses, it will be different. And here I'm deciding what do I want to expose for the business. So for example, here I have the revenue, but I'm doing additional calculation to expose only the total revenue. And as I mentioned before, it's it depends from the developer to add the descriptions, but I find that it's super helpful, and that's why Looker is the self-service is so great, because as developer I can add the descriptions, I can add the information, is this value unique or not. So that's the code. That's how the code look like. And I will need to add this view to model to expose it first, and exposing exposing view as the explore is one line of code when we have the standalone explore, like for this example. And now I will show you the perspective of business user. So the work of BI developer is done, and now I can inform business user that you can explore the data and create the report to show this monthly revenue for past year. And that's the UI that analyst will see. So on the left-hand side, I have the fields that were exposed in the code. So here I have the time ranges and aggregated revenue. And it's quite easy because I want to show the months. So I need to click on the value. I want to show the total revenue per month. And also it's very helpful to see the SQL. Because then you can also the analyst or business user can double check if we are on the same page, and that's the data that he or she desires. And I also mentioned that the Looker suggests the best type of the visualization. So I will show it quickly, but I will also use the filter to show the data only for in 2003. So I think that it was maybe 4 clicks. And if I will click run, you will see that the data was exposed. And once I click on the visualization, you see that Looker chose this type of line chart as the best one. And for other data, you will see other suggestions. And also we can switch the type and add additional values. So for example, here I want to also expose the numbers for my columns, and I can also add the reference lines to show, for example, the average for my revenue. So as you see, it's quite simple, and I can save this report for later. Looker also allows to download the data. You can save it and have the report that will be delivered on some schedule. And yeah, so that's the demo for Looker. And I wanted to show that the development might be quite complex because there are some native, native language and some specific terms, but the business has the data goes in the Explore, and it's rather about clicking and polishing the final version of the report. I will pass it to Piotr now.
Thank you. So Anna, as long as you have someone who will take care of this scary LookML, it's very easy from that point onwards, it looks like. Okay, let me try to switch the screen. Can you see the Looker Studio window?
Yep.
Okay, so let me show you. Basically, we will use the same data, how to start building simple charts in Looker Studio. And also I will show you how you can do it more self-service. So far I just clicked on the create new report. You can see that there are lots of different connectors that you can use. But because we have data in BigQuery, it's natively supported and very easy. So I will just choose that. Then you need to choose, you can choose either a table that you want to use, or you can use custom query. And in our case, I will just use a custom query. That's my project. I have it prepared for these purposes. I just paste it here. So that's very nice because you know that analysts love SQL. So if they are able to write SQL, that's very nice. And we will now connect to this data source. Okay, let's wait for a few seconds. And now by default, Looker Studio will suggest some charts for me. It's not necessarily what I wanted, so I can easily adjust it. That's the interface that works very similarly for all types of charts. Here you can see the settings for the chart, and here you can see the data. So let me just check this chart, change this chart from table to bar chart. The only thing that I need to do is for my dimension, I don't want to use month. Maybe I will just use date to enable drill down if it's needed. Then I need to select the metric by default.
Piotr, you need to wait a second because I think there's a lag.
Okay.
A bit. Now we can see the scrolling.
Okay. So I will try to speak slower maybe. Okay, so the next thing is the metric. By default, it shows record count. I will replace it with revenue. And I will also update sorting because by default, it's sorted it by revenue descending, which doesn't make too much sense. Let's choose the order date ascending, so it makes more sense this way. Next thing would be adding some controls for the business. So let's say that we want to allow them to choose dates. It will work similarly for other filters as well. And we can say that by default, because we are interested in 2023, by default, they will see last year, but they can easily change it. So that's the experience for the analyst, for the business user. Basically, whatever you put in here, whatever charts, whatever controls, they will be able to use them, as you can see. So now if I want, I can easily change the range of dates, or I can switch to any other periods that are preset for me, which is very nice because I can see this week, last week, and so on. But the question here arises, what if I, as a business user, would like to, for example, explore this data even more? Because what I have here, what someone prepared for me, is not enough. Do I need to know SQL? Because I used a SQL query at the very beginning. And the answer is not, because you can just allow people to edit the reports. So they could use this easy interface to move around here. And also, if you wanted them to create their own charts, what I can do here quite easily is I can go to my data sources, an analyst can prepare a data source that we know is, for example, correct and validated for the logic and make it reusable. And from this point on, I can share this data set with anyone who I want. For example, I could share it with Anna right now. And if Anna wanted to create her own report based on my data set, she would be able to do it, and she wouldn't have to know what's the logic, what's the underlying logic, so what's the SQL, what tables are joined, and so on. That's how you share it, and then that's how you can create the report. A little bit painful is, as I mentioned before, is managing this, because here I would share it from my personal account. It can get a little bit messy if lots of people rely on this data source, but to some extent, it can be done. The other tool, Tableau, let me show you this. I've already connected to the BigQuery. We will use the similar approach, so custom query that I've prepared before. I paste it here. And basically, the interface is, of course, different, but it's the same story here as before. If you expose reports to the business users, they will be able to use them. But if you wanted them to explore the data, you would need to do something similar as in Looker Studio. I will show you this in a second. Let me now create a chart. This is a pretty standard chart, so it's also quite intuitive. But as Przemek mentioned before, if you need something more sophisticated, maybe customizable, and you have experience from other tools, it might get a little bit getting used to do it. So now I created this visualization. Then let me create a new dashboard. Oh, sorry, it's not this one. We can put it here. We can add the filter based on year. Yeah, and from now on, business users, I could share it with the users. They would be able to filter out whatever period they want. And if I wanted them to be able to explore the data freely, what I could do is I could publish data source. So this logic that I used to prepare the data set in the server, so that they could connect to the server and create their own charts based on that, their own dashboards. The only problem with that is the pricing, because in pricing, it's like ingrained that if you are just a viewer, you are just looking at the dashboards, you pay like certain amount. But if you want to be an author, a creator of stuff, you need at least Tableau Explorer, which is 3 times more expensive. So for example, in this our scenario that we shown before, that would mean that Tableau would end up actually the most expensive tool among all the ones that we compare today. Okay, so that's it for Tableau. Przemek, do you want to show something interesting about Power BI?
Yes, of course. With pleasure. Where is my Power BI? Okay, so can you see my screen with Power BI?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, this is how the tool looks itself. So the front end is really similar to the Office I already mentioned. So I will be doing the same stuff as my colleague. So I will be getting data from the Google BigQuery. So in order to get the data, I'm going to home, get the data. And over here, you get the shortcuts to connect to your data sources. There's a shortcut to Excel because this is one of the most used data sources so far. But you can also have the SQL Server website. But if you want to see more, then you have here the whole list. And I will look for Google. Okay, so I have Google BigQuery. And I'm selecting it from the list. Then you don't have to configure the advanced options, but you can set up the SQL that you want to perform as Anya showed us. But I want to be a simple user. I just need to log in over here. I need to allow my account to be used over here. I connect. Waiting for BigQuery. Yeah, then there's a pop-up where I can select the data sources that I want to import. I'm selecting the sources that I'm interested in. For now, for our training will be the e-commerce data set. I'm selecting the data sets and I'm clicking the load. After the load, I can view the data over here. So it's really cool that I can get the copy of the data internally. So if you want to play with the data itself without going to Google BigQuery, it's really easy over here. Then the next part is to do the data modeling. So I need to connect the tables with the relationships. The really cool feature is that Power BI already detects the relationship between tables. So if you are loading tables with column names that are really matching, then Power BI will guess and just understand what is the best key for connection. So over here, I just need to check the connection and see if it's okay. So Power BI did a good job. I don't need to do anything over here. If I need to edit it, I just go to properties and I can edit the relationship. It's really easy. I can just click how do I want to connect the tables. So actually right now the BI developer part is done. So I finished the data modeling. So I can just click save and then just share this file with someone else, like my colleague, like Piotr or Anna. And if they want to continue on this using some visuals, they can do it. I can also publish this data model in the cloud. So if I want to, I can just publish it and then other people can connect to this data set and use it without doing all the stuff that I just did, which is really cool and can speed up the process for all the analysts. So now we are going to the part for the like more data analyst part. So I have a data model ready. I need to create some visualizations. So first, I want to create the visual with the columns showing me the revenue for each month. So I'm looking for the data, and I'm looking for the columns that would be interesting for me. And looking at the list of columns that I have already here, I can see that the ordered items is the table that I'm interested in. So I will be showing the visual that will be more like a column chart. And so if I want to create a chart, I just select from the list and it will pop up. And then I need to configure this chart. So in the X, I want to see date, created date, and then I can see the, for example, sales price. So over here, for example, I just created a very simple chart where I can see the sum of sales price, which is not really making sense. I just want to make an average, and I can see that for all the years the price is really similar. If I want to go lower into details, I just click drill down, and I can see lower and lower how the data differed through month by month. So I can clearly see that the price is not really changing over time. So we are somehow like around 60 per piece. So if I want to modify this chart, I can do some formatting over here. So I can, for example, delete the title for the y-axis. I can change the range for like maximum to be 60. I can change some titles, some grid lines. I can add some data labels. So there's a lot of stuff that we can do over here. and make it more attractive. So just to show you some end results that I just prepared for you yesterday, like this took me like less than 20 minutes just to prepare the very simple like dashboard. So here everything is interactive and giving us the option to analyze the data. So if analysts want to get deeper, they can just drill down, click, and then data will be interactively filtered for the end user. Okay, so that would be all for Power BI, and I'm giving all voice over to the studio, Piotr.
Okay, Przemek, do you want to share the presentation or? I had a lag, so maybe it's better if you share it.
Yeah, let me.
Yeah, and I will start already talking about the next point. So we have shown you the main criteria that we think differentiate the modern BI tools, but of course that's not enough because, for example, we've seen a case where a company was considering having not one, but two BI tools. And of course, there are valid reasons for that in some cases. But the reason in this case was quite surprising because the core reason of why they wanted to have the second BI tool was that they did not communicate with each other. So basically, there was a team that was put in charge of selecting a BI tool. They did not talk to all the stakeholders. Maybe there was some issue with the communication. And the other team decided that, okay, so this tool does not work for us. So right now we'll buy our own tool and implement our own tool. So the process of, being in charge for selecting BI tool is quite stressful enough without such situations. That's why we have prepared for you a simple guide on how to drive the process of choosing a BI tool. So if you can, Przemek, switch 2 slides forward.
This one?
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, you have a long list of all the tools that you might want to use. The first thing that we recommend for you is to collect user stories. What do I mean by user story? I mean that this is a requirement that BI tools should fulfill, expressed in a common language. So for example, someone may say that this tool should integrate with this database, or I should be able to run custom queries in SQL, or I should be able to freely explore the data, and so on. So you collect these kind of user stories. You go over the entire company, like different groups of stakeholders. For example, the engineers, analysts, business users. Probably it would be wise to also reach out to CFO. Although at this point, I do not recommend using budget to eliminate any tool yet. It can be done later, but maybe some of the tool will be worth paying a few extra bucks per license. Step 2, so if you can, Przemek, move on. Once you have the full list of the requirements formulated as user stories, you can compare it against the features that every tool has. And based on that, you already should be able to eliminate quite a lot of tools and end up with a few tools that you like the most. In step 3, what you can do, and we recommend you doing actually, is to prepare POC. So you take, it's important, your case, your use case, one of the use cases that you want to be able to address with your BI tool, and you try to implement it in a BI tool. And then again, you talk to people, but not only analysts, for example, but all the groups of stakeholders, because oftentimes, for example, for some analysts, the tool seems to be easy to use, but when you show it to the business user, they say that it's too complex. So if you want to make sure that everyone is on the same page at the end of the day, and you do not get complaints to your inbox, the way to go is to communicate early on. And finally, after the POC, after talking to all the users, you should be able to select the right tool. So we talked about the criteria, about the process. Finally, we will give you our rule of thumb of the scenarios for which we would recommend the tools that we discussed today. And we're going to start with Looker. So Anya, what companies you think should be interested in Looker?
Yes, so I chose two points that I see the most valid. One is that bigger companies or the companies with more complex data structures have chance to build a very solid model using the LookML feature, which is the native language for Looker. So it doesn't leave any space for misinterpretation for the data. I think it's like very important because when we had earlier the example of revenue, and you might end up with like different ways of calculating the revenue. Where for Looker and Looker model, you can specify in one place, in one repository, what do we mean by that, and also it gives the chance to have a more common data dictionary across whole company. Because I also saw that there was like one value and it was named different way in many like other departments. So also you can reduce the option for users to explore the data that are not exposed in the Looker model. So I see that as a huge benefit. And the second was the data governance, because I have the experience of working with Looker in the company that was listed on stock exchange, and because Looker has the separate administration, you can really group the users per the content that they can see, and it's you can limit the access to data on very granular level, even on the single row level. So it's great for the companies that might face the potential audit. So that are the 2 points, and I will pass it to Piotr.
Thank you, Ania. So referring to the comment that we just seen in chat, I would recommend Looker Studio to GCP because it might not be worth hassle. Like if you have everything in one cloud, going to use BI in a different cloud. So if you're on GCP, Looker Studio is for you, definitely. Definitely for startups. So we had a startup company where we were helping them to select a BI tool. We had a couple of options. We recommended Looker Studio, and they said that it's too simple. They didn't want it. But later on, we just use it for a POC. Okay, so until we choose the final tool, let's not waste our time. Let's already start working with Looker Studio. Turned out after a couple of weeks that it fulfills all of their needs. They were so happy with Looker Studio that they actually didn't want another tool. So I would say that startups want to, who need speed, velocity. Finally, if you are a company with decentralized teams where you have analysts on board with different project teams, probably it might be also a good choice because analysts will be able to very easily use this tool. They will love this tool. And if they share the reports with the other team members, they also will be able to very easily interact with them. If we go to Tableau, actually, I struggled with unique selling point for this tool a little bit because for years it was recommended as easy to use, but there's large competition here nowadays. And it was also recommended for creating very sophisticated, complicated visualizations. So probably that's still true. They still have the edge here, but the other question maybe more important is how often in business you actually need this very sophisticated visualization. Maybe a clear chart that people understand would be enough. But still, it's difficult to, if you pick Tableau, it's difficult to call it a bad choice. Probably you will be happy with it. For me, at least, it's just not clear what's their unique selling point nowadays. Przemek, what about Power BI?
Yeah, so I wanted to write a lot, but just wanted to keep it very short. But from my point of view, I would consider Power BI if you are already having Microsoft Office, because it might be the case that you are already paying for the Pro license for your business employees. So just take a look if you already have this. I work with a couple of companies that were using Tableau, and after 3 years, someone came in and they said, why you're using Tableau if you are paying for Power BI Pro every month, like thousands of dollars? And they said, okay, we just do the migration and That's probably why Tableau is losing the market. But yeah, just check if you are already paying for Office 365 Power BI. Second thing, if you are in short of time for BI, I would go for Power BI because it's really easy to integrate. It's really easy to integrate not only with Office and Microsoft, but also the other tools. It's really easy to model because you don't have to know like the very complex stuff. It's enough to know basic SQL, and then you can just do the modeling. And for the end users, it's really easy. It's like PowerPoint user interface. So if you are experienced with excellent PowerPoint, then you can easily get into Power BI. So if you don't have time for some fancy stuff, but still you want to do the fancy stuff in the future, I would go with Power BI. It's easy to start and a lot of opportunities.
Okay, so finally, as you see, we are quite passionate about this topic. And if it happens that also you are at the point where you, for example, need to make this decision, we tried to make as much knowledge as possible for you to make this easier. So you know about criteria that we find important, about the process that we recommend, our rule of thumbs for different tools. But still, if you maybe have some doubts or maybe you have some questions specific to your company, we have some free slots for free consultations. So you can, if you hurry up, you can catch us this month and talk about BI for free, no strings attached. So I found it a pretty good deal. And finally, it would be super helpful for us if you could fill in the survey to let us know if you like this webinar, if you would like more of them, what topics are especially important for you, which maybe not so much, so that we can improve future events. And at the end, we tried to answer most of the questions during the event. So if you have more, you can email them to us, unless we have something that we can address very quick. But I need to check because I haven't followed the chat for a few seconds.
No, I think that I mean, from my perspective, you already mentioned the differences between Tableau. Yeah.
Okay, I think we won't have any questions.
There's
When you
one.
talk about, yeah, we have one. When you talk about POC, how big is the data? I would say that's an important consideration if your data is so big that you are worried that the tool will not handle it. Or for example, if you need so low latency that you are not sure if it will be handled properly. For example, if you know that you need data within seconds to be visible. If not, I would say that keep it simple. Try to focus on what is important for your data, for your specific needs. For example, if you have maybe you have some legacy tool that uses like hundreds of columns that you do not use and you are worried about how that might affect performance. I would just try to think what are your concerns and then curate data set that would be the best for testing if tool will handle them well. I don't know, Ania, Przemek, if you have other thoughts here.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Piotr. So I think that it's good to start working on the POC because then you'll figure it out what do you actually need for the reporting. And then you get to the point where you will clarify the data set that you need. So you will end up with the answer if you need a big data set or not. This is also the POC for. So yeah, I totally agree that think about what typical report will you have, like 60-70% of the report will look like. If it's a huge report, then yeah, of course, POC should have like millions of records. If you are having normal data set, just go with hundreds of thousands records. It would be enough. Yeah, but I would suggest start POC, give it like 2 weeks, see how it ends, and then you can decide on the result.
I also think that even if you will not choose like specific tool that you are doing the proof of concept, still you will have the chance to know new technology. You will also see like what data do you actually have at this moment. So I would take this as the chance for grow and also to like know what data is there.
Yeah, totally agree. Cool.
Okay, I think we can finish now because we are a little bit after the time. So thank you, Przemek and Piotr, for the presentation, and all of you for staying a little bit longer. If you have any more questions, so as Piotr said, you can email us or just sign up for the free consultation. Thank you once again, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.